right now we're going to talk about deadly games.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Ooh.
Like
Right?
Mortal Kombat and stuff like that.
Oh man, who's your Mortal Kombat go-to character? Raiden? You seem like a Raiden.
I used to be a Sub-Zero guy all the way.
I see that. What about you,
But-
babe?
I really liked Reptile a lot.
Reptile was dope.
Yeah. He was a weird character, you know?
Yeah.
Nice choice.
And plus, I have a chameleon, so.
There was actually a character called Chameleon.
Yeah, but Reptile was more like a chameleon, I feel like, you know? Except for, well, I know in the sense of like the blend-in shit, but I just like the fucking green head. When he would take the mask off and he would be fucking
Just a lizard head.
lizard under.
Yeah. Good times. They don't make them like they used to.
So, speaking of Mortal Kombat, my first thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about for the deadly games is heavily involved in combat.
Oh.
So, familiarized by Hollywood more than history books at this point, gladiators, ancient Roman gladiators, were one of Rome's ancient forms of entertainment. Part of a notoriously violent era, gladiators were professional fighters. They either came from slave origins, they were condemned criminals, or soldiers, and sometimes it was like politicians that wanted to showcase their athletic abilities too. So it was people from all different walks of life, basically.
But I bet you when the politicians came in, they were like, oh, you know, put me in against like Gimpy Lou, who's been fucking malnourished for like 3 months.
Or like
and
the
just let me
handicapped
behead
guy.
him in front of people.
Right.
Like now, kind of like now, you know?
But just drug him before the fight and just
Yeah.
easy win.
So it started in 105 BCE and went to 404 CE. And it took place in large arenas, kind of like the Colosseum, like the typical, when you're imagining Rome. The Colosseum was like one of the main places that these gladiator fights happened. So they would fight each other or large animals like lions or elephants to the death.
Like elephants, dude?
Oh, I'm getting into that shit.
That's fucking nuts.
I'm getting into that shit.
It's not
I've-
one-on-one. Can't be.
That's
So-
like the elephant always wins the heady. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's how I feel.
You
Unless
think
they
you
know.
could take on an elephant?
Just knowing how I can see a baby one. Even then, he'll probably give you some trouble. It's a
Okay.
huge fucking baby.
Mortal Kombat, reptile versus an elephant. Go.
Reptile, because he shoots fucking
yeah,
acid out his
that's
mouth.
obvious. One is real, one is not.
Which one?
I think you'll figure it out. I think.
So, gladiators, like the idea started, the actual fighting and stuff, it kind of evolved. Like in Rome, it used to be held at grave sites. Like imagine somebody getting buried, right? And then fights going on right next to it. So it used to be held at grave sites because human blood was thought to purify the soul. So it has its origins in, right? That's where they would fight. So it has its origins in human sacrifice and animal sacrifice because of previous powers that had been in Italy called Etruscans. I know I'm not saying that right, but that's what it looks
I
like.
feel it sounds like a pastry.
There's
Oh yeah, I'll
Shushan.
have 3 estrutions
I think it sounds like
It sounds like-
esthetician,
and
someone-
a coffee.
It sounds like a military strategic move. Like we're doing the extrusion sound.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
right. The
excruciating
doctor's like,
pain.
can you spread your ass? I have to do the extrusion.
Yeah. Okay.
So they kept the same ceremonious way of having an attendant dressed like Hermes. Do you guys know who Hermes is?
The messenger of the gods.
Exactly. It's how Becky Lynch's shoes look, or like those Air Jordans.
Oh wow. Yeah, I feel like he's in God of War, right? Hermes.
Yeah, I think he gets. Wait, did he get his legs broken or something?
I think he's also the DHL logo. I'm not sure though.
Oh really?
They're thunder.
They have a
delivery
little.
guy?
They have a little winger.
Oh yeah, the wing. Yeah.
So,
Everybody needs a wingman.
so he was the messenger god, and he would escort people to Hades, like their version of hell, right? So this guy who was the attendant dressed like Hermes, he would typically be the person that would strike the finishing blow to people. So it's like when you're fighting, you don't always get to kill the person. This guy, this attendant will step in and he will like deal the last blow.
Oh, so like once you've clearly defeated the guy, he comes in
He'll do the
and
finish
takes
him.
all the bad karma by killing him.
Basically,
Really?
you just get to fuck the dude. If you're like a gladiator, you could fuck him up, and then this guy dressed like Hermes will come in, and they had like a couple different ways they would normally kill someone. Like, I'm gonna get into a little bit more detail, but like they would either take a sword and do it like straight down the throat, or they would go through the back of your like on your back between your shoulder blades. They would go through there. So that's what this guy would normally do. Like he just killed people those two ways.
Jeez.
Did you ever see any photographs of this guy?
No, it's from ancient Rome.
Oh, they didn't have a picture back then?
No.
Okay.
Damn.
They did have YouTube though.
Oh, yeah.
So one, it's not like how you think about it when you think of gladiator fights, because you normally picture it like everything resulting in a death. It wasn't as deadly as you thought it was. It's pretty much only 1 in 5 or somewhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 actually resulted in death. Other times they just fight a whole bunch.
That's pretty deadly, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's high up there.
Like,
Especially
okay,
that Hermes
so like
dude.
how many fights did they have a night? Like, how was the card?
It was pretty packed from my
So like
understanding.
they had at least, so you're going to see a killing at least once a night.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's dope.
So it's like more hardcore version of UFC.
It's, yeah, more hardcore.
Graveyard UFC.
Pretty much.
It's like backyard wrestling of gladiator.
and there's no
arenas.
guy in there like, oh no, you can't knee him. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
no, you can like, you can
can do
split his
whatever.
face open with that sword if you'd like.
Yeah.
And crowds were crazy at these things. Like the Colosseums that they had about 50,000 people. I was trying to find a similar stadium just to compare the size of them. It's basically like college football stadiums for like a not very popular team. But there's a lot more people now than there were then. So, yeah.
And the amount of retards in society, they'd be fucking lining up for this thing.
Oh yeah.
It'd be sold out on like day one, you know?
Yeah.
True.
I'd be there.
So typically, when you think about it, like whenever they show it in movies and stuff, because there's a lot of different movies based off gladiators. There's one called what's it
Gladiator?
called? Oh, that's it.
Yeah, Gladiator. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Yep.
So usually when you see it, you'll see the whole crowd, and they'll
movie's
either do
dope.
like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And in the movies, they make thumbs down mean kill him kind of thing, and they'll all be screaming, pointing their thumbs down like he sucks, kill him. But that probably was inaccurate. Really, the thumbs up meant death. So think about that next time you guys are giving someone thumbs up, like you're telling them, you know,
Right?
die.
Die. I'm okay with that though.
Yeah.
Gene.
So this shit is so crazy to me. So there's all different types of gladiators. This just makes me think about video games. So I got really into this when I was like looking this stuff up. So there's different types of gladiators that have different weapons. So just think about them like different bad guys and levels that you'd have to face. So there's your basic ones that have like a sword and a shield that are fighting. They put some on horseback. There's some riding chariots. There's some that have 2 swords at once. 2 swords at the same time.
Those are fucking heavy, dude. So you have to be, you know, in really good shape to be able to.
So it's like, would it be like wrestling where everyone has their own like persona and like that, and you can't copy the other person's? So
Well-
I'm the Sharia guy. You can't be the Sharia guy too.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying there.
Or is it like
is there just a set of guys, right?
or maybe is it a type of match? Like, you know how there'll be like a Hell in the Cell or something. In today's match, there'll be a freaking lance fight or something where they have lances. I don't know if they used that back then.
Right? I'm not sure. I think that it was typically like a versus, like they would call what kind of match it would be, and they'd have those 2 people fight each other. That's my instinct, but it could be different. They could have different people fighting each other, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they kind of mix it up. They did it for like 300 years, so they probably got bored of certain things.
Like, when do you think they
Death
fucking?
gets boring after a while.
When do you think they called it? When do you think they were like, man, we've been doing this shit for a long time. This is some barbaric, sick shit. Like, we can't do this no more.
Well, they actually had women that participated too, but they called that pretty early. And I do have to tell you guys, that wasn't all the different weapons. My favorite weapon that they had someone that had a net and a trident.
Like
Like
so.
picture
who's
Neptune,
catching
like
fish.
right,
and
like
then
can you,
kill 'em.
like it doesn't seem like it would be that easy to fight with like trying to catch someone in a net and then stab them with a trident.
Huh.
That's fucking dope.
Like
I
a
love-
heavy net, get them entangled, they can't move, and then just stab them with the trident.
But the other
That's
guy probably
genius.
has a net too.
Oh, yeah. Would it be like Ebola?
Wait,
kinda?
I'm sorry. You kind of just went off the women thing, though. You said they packed that in real quick. So there were women fighting for a while?
Yeah, they had women gladiators, and that got called early, basically. So it's like they did it for so many years, but they banned or outlawed women gladiators after a while.
Because they were losing their women.
I'm not sure why, but they did have it. I don't know if it was like not as appealing or if they thought it was like, you know, I don't know why.
It's only funny when men die, anyways. That's usually...
Yeah, when a girl dies, you're like, man, that's
Yeah,
fucked
that's
up.
fucked up. But
You know?
same thing happens to a dude. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
The gladiators also would fight different animals. This is a list of animals that they would fight. So they would fight deer, which when you first think about it, you're like, oh, deer, like Bambi. But then when you think about their...
Like bad motherfuckers.
Yeah.
We've
the
seen
big
some
bucks.
crazy. What were the ones we saw at, what's the name of the state park? Or the one we drove around. Olympia?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember. It's...
Anyway, it's a fucking
Olympic.
it's a drive-through zoo basically, and like, dude, these fucking deer were
chase
so
you.
big and intimidating, and their fucking antlers looked insane, dude. Like,
Like all twisted and...
dude, there are just some deer out there that look way more frightening than you would ever imagine.
Like you wouldn't
know?
want to fight one.
No.
Yeah.
And then they would fight ostriches, which when you first think about ostriches, you're like, oh, they're stupid. They just keep their head in the ground or whatever. But those things can run like over 60 miles per hour.
Oh, yeah, they're fast.
And they're huge.
But that's running. What kind of...
And they also like are very combative. They have those big beaks, you know? They're big though. They're like over 6 feet tall and they run really fast. So I don't know.
That's nuts, dude.
Lions, crocodiles, bears, and like we were talking about before, elephants. So which of those animals would you fight?
I honestly think a crocodile would be easy to get the jump on. Like, I feel like he'd be chilling,
They're
and
fast.
I could probably, but I could probably walk. The Colosseums are big enough to where I could probably walk around him from behind. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then just wrestle him.
Wrestle the gators. What about you?
One bad move, though. Okay. What were the selections? Is
Deer-
ostrich still on there? Because
Ostrich
that
is
seems
on
like
the
an easy
card.
one.
You think you could take on an ostrich?
Yeah, what the fuck is he gonna... I just grab a hold of his long-ass neck and just
And
choke him
strangle
out.
him?
He doesn't have arms. He can't remove me from his neck.
That's true. He doesn't have arms.
Genius.
Yeah, he's just gonna... He's either gonna fight me or run away. But if he fights me,
At
he's gonna...
60 miles per hour, dragging you.
Well, I'm
you're
heavy.
chill-
Oh, so they'll be able to easily drag you. It
He
sounds
can
like.
drag a full-grown man.
I don't know that much about ostriches.
Because
But-
with that extra weight, I don't think they can run that fast.
I don't know. They get
who knows?
like their predators in the wild are gigantic beasts, you know.
True.
Wait, what? Read the list one more time.
Deer, ostrich, lion, crocodile, bear, elephant.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's either the ostrich or the croc, because although the croc can fuck you up easily,
Yeah.
like I feel like you could get there's a strategic way to get the jump on the croc somehow.
Yeah, but they have such a tough like skin or hide. Like, what are you gonna?
I just grind my cock against them.
Oh, you can kill it. Croc cock.
Crock pot.
Or no, I mean like if you
I
got
say
behind
the-
him, you could
I
like
think the
put your
answer's-
fingers in his eyes or something. Yeah.
The answer's easy. I think it's the ostrich. It's not.
I would go with bear and I'd just play dead.
You would go with the bear?
The
And
bear's
I'd
like
play
so.
dead.
It's like the apex predator. It could probably fuck up the rest of the
They're
list
sleepy.
That's a
Maybe it
ho-
would start
Dude,
hibernating.
I've heard some horror stories of bear attacks.
there. Like ripping people in half.
Yeah, like crushing their skull, but they're still alive, and they're like, ah.
They're so cute.
Yeah, I think you've been watching too many cartoons, but all right.
You ever seen a shaved bear? It's horrifying. It
I've
looks
seen
like
Aaron.
That's good. But yeah, they're horrifying. They're like giant rats, like mutant rats.
I'm
Like
gonna
it-
have to Google shaved bears later.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
The gladiators were also kind of thought of as celebrities and sex symbols too.
Oh, of course.
So, but like, here's the thing:
It's
like,
just like our serial killers today. Same thing.
Ted Bundy. There's so many Ted Bundy is hot memes.
What
right
a
now.
heartthrob! It's because they see Zac Efron and they don't know. Like these are new kids, like just finding out about this guy. Like, oh, he looks just like Zac Efron.
I love him.
I mean, he was charismatic, but I wouldn't call him a supermodel either.
So like these kids in ancient Rome would make their own gladiators out of clay. So it's kind of like wrestling now where they have their own action figures, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
clay figures.
So would they like sell them too, or it's
No.
just something people crafted?
That's just what they would play with. Like,
That's cool.
yeah. So you guys have heard of Spartacus, like I am Spartacus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were different revolts because not everyone that was part of these not everyone agreed that the gladiator game should be going on. And because a lot of the people that were participating were slaves, there were revolts at different points and riots and things like that. So that's what Spartacus was. He was like one of the people that rioted against these gladiator games. And in their protests, they would have like monks sometimes would interfere, and for interfering in the gladiator games, they'd like try to get in the middle of them. They were stoned to death in front of everybody. There's also this fucking...
That's a tough way to go.
Getting that stoned, you
Yeah.
can't die from marijuana.
It's like 1 in a million.
Yeah, right.
There was this really like crazy dude that had a lot of impact in the gladiator games too, and he did some fucked up shit. So in one of them, well, some of the crazier things that happened with like the animal ones, there was an elephant that blinded a rhino, which you can imagine what kind of like awful things ensued. There was one guy who was like really good at killing animals. So he killed 20 beasts in one battle, right? I don't know if they were all coming towards him at once or if he had to take them on one at a time, but that's crazy. Like 20 of them.
Jesus.
That's a lot.
There would also be gangs of dogs too that would tear people apart from limb to limb.
Well, were the 20 animals like were they like dogs though, or
Were they
something? Like
squirrel-
what was it?
Killing squirrels or something.
I'm not sure, but
But they did say beasts.
they said
right?
beasts. Yeah.
So that makes it sound like a lion.
Right. I don't think there were hamsters. Like,
Yeah.
but this crazy dude, his name was, and I'm probably saying it wrong, Commodus. So one thing that he did that was super fucked up, he tied a bunch of injured citizens together and pretended they were a giant and clubbed them to death.
Which is like there's a Clive Barker story in the cities in the hills, which is exactly about that. It's about these two gay guys that fuck in a cornfield, and then they find
favorite.
a dead giant. Like all these people tied together through bondage, laying on the ground, and there's this dude walking around shooting them in the head all one by one. And you find out that it was because every 10 years these two towns fight each other in the forms of giants. And it's like, oh, they had like children in the eye sockets because they had the best sight, and the strong men on the feet because, you know, they could hold up the weight and all this shit.
Oh, that's disturbing.
And to
The
totally
most fucked up Transformer version ever.
right to totally fucking completely ruin the book for you guys. In the end,
Spoiler alert.
one of the gay guys, they both see the second giant, the one that's alive. They'd seen the dead one already, and one of them is like, "Oh no, like this is fucking some sick shit." And then he gets crushed by one of the bloody feet of the giant and dies. And then the other one's like, "Yeah, dude, the fucking giant's cool," and he jumps on and like becomes part of it.
So he let his lover. He must have not had cared about his lover that much.
No, I think it was just like fucking him.
He
Yeah.
just met him or something.
It was like a cornfield
Guess so.
hookup. Typical
shit.
cornfield hookup. Another thing this guy did was he would make this Commodus guy. He would make dwarves fight with meat cleavers, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's what. There's no more details on that.
No. I couldn't find more.
Well, you know what? You don't need any fucking details. Just think about that. The dwarves with meat cleavers. This was one that I forced her to put into this list because I love the concept. You know, I'm a big fan of midget wrestling.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just imagining them with like cleavers and butcher knives.
But it was the same Commodus guy. So he made giants out of hurt people. And then he would also make dwarves or like little people wrestle too. Like this guy is nuts.
This guy
is your
is
hero.
he's probably one of the greatest humans to ever have lived. What'd you say?
I don't know what to say to that.